Newfound Reality Podcast, Episode 5. I'm really tempted to put all the rest of the information for this podcast into this one episode, so I'm really not sure how it will go. This episode, or this whole podcast, really is a kind of like a comedy piece about predictions for the future. As I said a few times already, we kind of came up with this podcast several years ago, and along the way, the people who have constructed and who have participated in the construction of this podcast have actually passed away for various reasons, and I feel sort of obliged to see the podcast to the end so I can move on to something different. We see changes around the world, and we see that there's a lot of problems. For sure, problems have always been there. New levels bring new devils, or new times bring new problems. These days we're dealing with such problems as lack of, I would say, workforce, lack of participation in everyday life. We can see that we are slowly moving towards these online platforms, that everything happens online. We are looking for our mates, our lovers online. It is so much easier to do pretty much anything, whether it's to learn a new skill or to meet a person who is going to participate in a group sex activity with you. Everything seems to be normal. So in many ways, everything that I'm talking about in this podcast is already pretty much here. We don't really need to legalize sex work anymore. It's everywhere. However, we're still dealing with stigma. We're still dealing with some other problems. I don't think finding sex is a problem anymore. I honestly think that finding love and meaningful connection is. Romance is kind of at the back burner or non-existent whatsoever, because the temptations are everywhere. Which is why, again, this whole podcast is a parody on what should happen. We exactly see everything around us that is happening the way it is happening, and we cannot deny it. Nevertheless, I do think that somehow monetizing and legalizing both sex and love, we can perhaps, somehow steer away from what is going to happen, and that is the full integration of humanity and AI, artificial intelligence, which basically means chipping. Because we cannot control our basic instincts and basic urges. So let's say if we were to legalize that sex work and love and find a way to fulfill our basic needs in a meaningful way that is actually somewhat good for our economy, which is very important because dollar makes the world go round, then we could perhaps avoid being chipped and controlled. We also need, as I discussed in the Second Amendment, need more help towards our marriage and family units. We need more proactive approach. We need more, I would say, control, and I know that nobody likes that word because nobody really wants to be told what to do. But the problem is that our marriages, our relationships don't last anymore. Not long enough to actually raise a child. So that means that we need to change the way we are looking at families and marriage, and we should be thinking about establishing government-led facilities which will not lead to abuse that have happened by the church-led facilities. but in a meaningful way in which parents and the government can, work together for the benefit of everyone involved, because parents do need help and the government also needs help too. I don't mean that these shelters or these facilities for our families should be prison styles. These are the places in which basically you as a parent can drop off your child for a couple of hours and you can go on your merry way, so you can actually go on a date with your spouse or something like that. We cannot rely on our grandparents anymore. So I do think that there is a greater need for the involvement of the government into our relationships. And I don't mean the involvement in a way to control, but to help out. Because if we are raising our future, citizens of this beautiful world who are going to contribute to it in a meaningful way, we also need help. I've already discussed a lot of these issues before. Number 3 is basically the abolishment of private property. We should all be given what we need. The economy should be organized in such a way that we should, give 4 days a week of our labor, whatever that needs to be. Whatever. Labor is labor and it needs to be done, of course. So whether we need nurses or we need doctors or we need artists, all of these can be somehow educated. And of course, there should be a test in order to find out which kid has more aptitude towards something. I've already discussed about these things before as well. So in that way, we can actually pre-organize or pre-plan how we want to deal with our workforce. We need to manage the jobs with the people, because right now we have a complete mismanagement. We have too many teachers, not enough students, or too many cooks, not enough bartenders, whatever, call it whatever you want. It's in my case, there's not enough doctors or nurses in this particular place where I'm at. So that needs to happen. We need to kind of create an economy in which we are all going to be happy and satisfied, and there should be a cap on salary. Your work should come as an intrinsic reward, whether you're a doctor or a CEO, not because of the money. Seriously, I know it doesn't work, but having basic income for everyone and having one set income for everyone would actually create somewhat on an equality in the workforce, which actually could create to a better lifestyle for everyone involved. So this is very, very important. In this case, the government would control absolutely everything, and you would be given a normal apartment, you would be given enough money to survive, rather than struggle to make ends meet while doing or working 3 jobs to support just yourself or your family. In former Yugoslavia, a young 26-year-old couple with a child would be given an apartment for free by the government. The government actually built housing for their own citizens. You will get a certain amount of points for completing school, for getting a job, for getting married, for having a child, and according to that point system, you would be given enough to live in that system. I always joked with my own sister that she was born because my parents needed 5 more points to get an apartment. But that worked. It worked. Imagine getting an apartment, a 2-bedroom apartment for free, because you work, because you live. However, that apartment does not belong to you. You can use it for as long as you want, but once you're done, somebody else will get it. You're not going to keep it in your family and then sell it for profit. It doesn't work like that, and that's what exactly Kill does. Profit. Everything is for profit. This is exactly what's happening, for example, in our hometown with the addictions. People are buying and selling drugs and cutting them, with something that is very deadly, basically, to be consumed in order to make profit. And that's in every industry, whether we're talking about, service industry or food industry or entertainment industry. We're doing everything for profit. Once we abolish that profit, once we establish a system in which money is not going to be our God, then we will be able to move on. This is why one of the episodes is going to be about emotional currency. But before we move to number 5, in this episode, I want to talk about euthanasia and capital punishment. In this system that I am proposing, you're basically going to get a message in the morning on your phone, and you will be told this is what you need to do today. You need to go to a job and you're going to be there for 8 hours. You need to visit, an orphanage and help out there. You're going to need to take a dog for a walk. You're going to need to visit, a local shelter or something like that. You're going to get a couple of messages of the things that you have to do on your phone. And then once you do those things, everything else is fine. Whether you need a car to get there, you're going to get a car. Whether you need money, whether you need food, everything is going to be pretty much free. Of course, you're going to have your own bracelet like this that is going to be able to open pretty much every door to you where you're going. So once you fulfill your duty for the day, the rest of the time you're free to pursue your dreams, whether that's going to be playing music or having promiscuous sex. Hopefully it's going to be playing music rather than just engaging in dangerous, low-grade activities. But nevertheless, it's going to be there for you as long as you are a contributing member to society. In proactive approach to families, I talked about having rotational fathers, having, people that basically support, let's say at this point we have 82% of single mothers who need some sort of support. They could be given a person, to support them in their daily activities, whether that's taking kids to kindergarten or spending a romantic evening with you. But you have a choice to take this person into your life or not. If you decide that this person is not suitable for you, you can say no. It's like a trial period. And imagine if this person visits 3 families and 3 different people say, no, we don't like this person. This person is out of the game. This person will not going to be assigned to another position. Whoa, what is he talking about? So this is where the capital punishment comes into place, and euthanasia. If you don't like the new world, which is going to be a world based on accountability, you're going to have to contribute to your society. We have 1/3 of our population, for example, here in Canada, that is unemployed, including myself, for various reasons, due to systematic problems or personal problems. If these people are not contributing members of the society, what do we do with them? What if they are deviant members of society? What if we decide that these people are actually damage to the society? We have to give them an option. If you don't want to contribute to this society, if at some point you want to actually step out, you should be able to find, let's say, 3 people who are going to sign this paper and then say, okay, we want to opt out of this game, I want to go. Please give me an injection and I'm gone. I don't want to contribute to this society where I am killing myself for $12 an hour while, my owner is traveling the world and enjoying himself and, doing all these other things that I've talked about in some other videos. I don't want to get into all the vulgarities. But the reality is, while, some of these people are really benefiting from my own work to a point that I'm being abused, I'm struggling to make ends meet. Well, listen, if this is the case, I don't want to contribute to this society anymore. But I want to have a way to get out peacefully. I don't want to kill myself. I don't want to, live like this anymore. So there are people who have been damaged beyond control, and they are begging. I have been working with a member of an organization called Dying with Dignity, and we have managed to actually bring this euthanasia law, which means mercy killing, to the forefront here in Canada, and it is actually legal now. So you can have medically assisted death. Nobody wants to talk about these things. I'm talking about these things again because I have been called, and I'm the only remaining person left to deliver this particular message. So having a way out would be something beneficial. I watched so many of my friends suffer until the bitter end. A lot of them basically wanted a way out, and there was no way out. I think that should be, it should be there. And I also strongly believe that capital punishment should be brought back. This is something that is not up for discussion because it's a democratic society that we live in. We vote on it, and of course, majority says this is not okay, and sure, but then we get stuck with such long-term problems that they are basically burdening ourselves and our own economy. These are some really difficult issues to talk about, but if you are not a contributing member of the society, and if for some reason you also don't want to participate anymore, you should have a way out. This is why the number 4 thing of our new manifesto is exactly that. Because the reality is that at some point, whether you want it or you don't, once we have this full integration of humanity, you're not going to have a choice. Your chip is going to decide whether you live or not. If you're a contributing member to society, whatever that means, it's going to be okay. You're going to be put to sleep. As simple as that. Your chip is going to be able to, either make you really irritated or really happy, or just put you to sleep, because you're going to be completely controlled. As I am nearing the end of this podcast, obviously I'm going to be revealing the final solution to this, and this is again a full integration of humanity with artificial intelligence. The only thing is, who is going to be controlling that parameters of artificial intelligence? I dare say the same people who have been controlling the production and the society up to this point. So nothing is really going to change, except we are not going to have a choice. We still have a choice. The fact that I'm actually making this silly podcast means that we do have a choice. Is choice an illusion? Yes. But we still have one. We still can willingly contribute to society or not. But at some point, we need to ask ourselves, what do we do with the members of society who can't contribute, won't contribute, and are not fit to contribute to society? God makes these decisions, of course. I strongly believe in that. No one has the right to infringe on anybody's body integrity or anything like that. But these questions have to be asked. The options have to be given. The freedom of choice must exist. Whether your freedom of choice is to marry or to engage into whatever activity you want to do through legalization of love and sex, or whether you want to work in this field or that field, that has to be kind of predetermined. We need to find a way for the society to work for everyone, not just for the rich. At this point, it's not working for anyone. Rich are not happy, poor are not happy. So let's find a way to deal with these things together. These are some of the suggestions that my friends and I had, and I'm delivering them in this podcast. And at some point, I'm going to deliver some other podcasts that make more sense to me and to everyone else, but I really need to finish these before I move to other ones. I hope you're with me, and if you're not, even better. Choice is still ours. At some point it won't be, unfortunately.